it's time for Art Week. See you in a bit. Hello, my name's Sam and welcome to my channel Sew That Sparkle with Sam, and this week is Art Week on the Great British Sewing Bee. So sit down, relax, grab yourself a cuppa and we'll chat all things Sewing Bee. There's only 6 contestants left. It's feeling like the end is near. I don't know how you feel. First of all, I must say a great big thank you to all of you who have sent me lovely get well wishes. I am definitely on the road to recovery now and I am feeling so much better. And knowing that you are here and watching and liking and subscribing is making my heart sing. So thank you very much. Without further ado, I'm going to get straight into it today. It is my anniversary today, so I would like to spend the rest of the day with my lovely Mr. Sparkles. So if you stay to the end of the video, you will see my son, Baby Sparkles, who will be giving his review of last week's episode. I put it at the beginning last week, I'll put it at the end this week. I don't know where you prefer it to be, but stay to the end for Baby Sparkles. So the pattern challenge. This week we had 4.5 hours to do the pattern challenge, and the pattern challenge was inspired by Grayson Perry, or if you listen to Gaynor, Grace and Perry. And it was the baby doll dress. So it was very exaggerated puff balloon sleeve baby doll dress with a large frilled collar and gathered waist. There was a lot of gathering in this challenge, and I think the gathering, although gathering, if you've done a lot of sewing, gathering isn't necessarily a difficult skill. It is sometimes difficult to keep it even, but it does take a long time. So if you're on a timed challenge and you've got a lot of gathering, and there was a lot of gathering on this, I think finishing was on the forefront of most of their minds. And yeah, so they had to choose a fabric that said something about them. So I'm just going to get straight into it. Kit chose colourful paint strokes fabric, which definitely said a lot about Kit. And yeah, it was absolutely fantastic choice. Gaynor chose a kind of floral, very demure, and was very Gaynor. She wasn't going to do any contrast at all, but in the end, I think Sarah convinced her to do a little bit of contrast, and she chose a lilac contrast, which I thought was a great idea. Yasmin, I thought Yasmin's choice was inspired. So she said, I like pink and I like women, so I'm going to pick pink fabric with ladies on, which I thought, why not? Absolutely fantastic. Stuart chose a really gorgeous 3D fabric, and it almost looked like crocheted flowers. When I say 3D fabric, it kind of had that 3D illusion on it. Very, very bright colours, and it was definitely very kind of Grayson Perry. I thought it was lovely. Whether it kind of said anything about Stuart, I wasn't quite sure, but then the more I looked at it, I thought, yeah, those vintage colours were in, and yeah, definitely screamed Stuart towards the end. And then Orla chose, was a gorgeous choice of fabric, and it had that, she picked out the pop of yellow. So it was kind of, it wasn't pastels, but it was kind of the kind of lighter shades of bright colours, if you know what I mean. Probably haven't described that. So when you see the pictures at the end, you'll get more of an idea. But the pop of yellow, which was what I think really played into Orla's favour, because it did look really great. And then Kaz's fabric, I'm pretty sure I've seen this fabric lots and lots of times before. I may be wrong, but I think it's a Lady McElroy fabric, and I think it's called something like Tokyo Nights or something, or Tokyo Days or something like that. It was a fantastic choice of fabric for Kaz. I can see Kaz definitely wearing that as a shirt, or kind of one of the other fantastic outfits that she made. It was really, really brilliant. And they all did really, really well, I think, in the baby doll challenge. It was another week where it was hard to pick between them, and they had to be quite nitpicky. And I think that is just the way it is going to be now, is that, you know, they can all sew. They're all fabulous sewers. Some are more technical, some are more creative, some, you know, I've obviously been doing it for a very long time, some are quicker, but there's not a lot between it. It's just, you know, kind of who has a good day on the right day. So the judging for the baby doll pattern challenge goes as follows. In 6th place was Stuart. In 5th place was Gaynor, 4th was Orla, 3rd was Kaz, 2nd was Kit, and 1st was Yasmin. And I was so delighted for Yasmin, because that is Yasmin's first win of this season, and I just think it was so deserved. It's one of those ones when you look back, you think, oh, why hasn't she won anything? Because she's really brilliant. So I was so pleased that she had won her first challenge. So then it was time for the transformation challenge. And before I get into the transformation challenge, can I just take a second for Sarah's jumper? Now, if ever there's been a transformation, it was definitely Sarah's jumper. It's obviously been upcycled, so it was a gorgeous jumper. And I think even without all of the embellishments, it would have been a jumper that I would have totally worn in the 90s. But it had been embellished and it looked very visibly mended and it looked very arty. And watch this space, because I am going to try really hard to see if I can recreate something like that, because I just thought it was fantastic. So yeah, little shout out while we're in the transformation challenge to Sarah's jumper, because I thought it was fantastic. So the transformation challenge, they were all given painter's overalls and they were asked to make an asymmetric outfit. And the quote in my notes was from Gaynor. Gaynor went, "Dirty clothes? What the devil am I to do with these?" So I don't think she was as excited, whereas Kit, I heard an audible yeah. So it was like, obviously some of them loved the idea of that being in the challenge and others didn't. And that's it, isn't it, with the transformation challenge? It's a bit of a Marmite challenge. Some people love it, some people not so much. But I have to say, I did really love what they did with it. So Kaz, she had a lot of pink paint. I think pink is always a theme with Kaz, which I love. And it was pink paint on a green boiler suit. And yeah, and so she just really went to town. So Kaz made the most of the pink paint using the boiler suit. She turned the boiler suit into a dress. It was kind of asymmetric in the way that it kind of had a long point down and then it had an interesting kind of curved shape up the other side. She got that shape using binding, which I thought was quite genius. I'm not quite sure I loved the shape of it, but I thought the way that she did it was genius. And then made the most of the pink paint. So the pink paint was kind of here, and then I think it was down the other side, and yeah, it just looked great. It was simple in some ways, but I think sometimes simple is really, really good in these transformation challenge. And yeah, it looked very nice on the mannequin. So Kit had quite a heavily painted painter's overall, and they wanted to do like a male form. It was almost like a harness top, a strapped pocket. It was definitely very asymmetric in the way that it came across the body. It almost looked a little bit like the way that you'd wear a crossbody bag with a pocket at the front, but obviously the pocket covered the chest area rather than down by the waist. I thought it was really, really clever in construction. You know, it had all of Kit's usual flair. Yeah, they did try it on. Didn't quite work. And I think it would have looked great on Kit's model from last week. I felt like, you know, they definitely made it for that kind of physique. Looked great. Then there was Stuart. Stuart made a nice top. It was just a really nice top. It had nice cuffs. It definitely had the asymmetric feel to it. Yasmin's had lots of ruffles and lots of tears. What we're expecting from Yasmin every time. It looked really great. Definitely had the asymmetric feel to it. Then on to Gaynor. So Gaynor did a skirt. The thing that I loved about Gaynor's was the way that she used the buckles and made the buckles into a belt. But for me, I didn't see the asymmetric nature of it. And it was just a bit too nice. But it was, you know, it was nice. It was as you would expect for Gaynor's makes. And Orla's was stand out for me. It was breathtaking. Where, in fact, Esme suggested that when she came in, it was the one that she was first drawn to. And I have to say, as soon as we saw Orla's on the mannequin, I thought it was absolutely fantastic. So it was a pleated skirt over a long kind of A-line skirt, so that the one side of the skirt went almost all the way to the floor, and then it kind of like waterfalled up, and then it was a very sharp edge to like a pleated skirt. It was absolutely stunning. And the way that she'd used the paint, so the paint just came across the edge of the waterfall and then all over the pleated skirt. Really good use of the fabric that they were given. And here are the scores. So it was Gaynor in 6th, 5th was Stuart, 4th was Yasmin, 3rd was Kaz, 2nd was Kit, and of course Orla was 1st. And very well deserved. You're halfway through. Halfway through. Now on to the made to measure. So the made to measure was to be inspired by pop art. So pop art was in kind of 50s and 60s, Warhol, very graphic, very witty, all of the kind of pop, yeah, wham, comic strip type. I think most people think of the Andy Warhol soup dress or the soup art. Yeah, it just everything pop art you could think of. It was the made to measure, so the models were in, and the first thing that you saw was Gaynor having a little chin wag with her model and saying, I think mine's too basic. So I got really worried. So I was thinking, if Gaynor's worried, should we all be worried? Well, let's see. So yeah, I think they all did really well in this challenge, because I think I would have found this challenge really difficult with the pop art feel. I think today I have chosen my lovely Zoe dress, which is an Emporia Patterns dress, and it's kind of got the graphic kind of black line designs, and I've just put my pop of colour by putting my rainbow stars on. But pop art is not something I necessarily would kind of wear. I think pop art, this is the thing, and it divides a lot of people on the Sewing Bee about it having to be a wearable garment. And I think sometimes it doesn't have to be a wearable garment. It's a sewing competition. They've been asked to meet a particular brief, so it doesn't always have to be a wearable garment, which was good for Kit. Because Kit made a paper dress, which I thought was fantastic. I loved the paper dress that Luke made last year, so I was so excited for Kit's paper dress, because I thought, oh, you know, I was inspired by Luke's one. I was really looking forward to see what Kit was going to do, and Kit made a paper dress. They used some kind of backing. They said something about stitched interfacing. Now, I use stitch interfacing on stretch and on necklines and things, so I think it may have been a similar interfacing to that. They were definitely pressing it on, so it was some kind of iron-on interfacing, which they definitely did, because it was very, very fragile. They popped on lots of applique of all of the things that you expect to see from that pop art, the lips, the eyes, the big kind of black comic strip lines. And when it came down the runway, it had a really, really interesting look to it. I found the shape of it a little bit, it just kept drawing my eye the wrong way. And I think that was also to do with the fact that Kit ran out of time a little bit. They wanted to put some speech bubbles on, and then they ended up making a speech bubble bag, and the less said about that, the better. So, and then there was Orla. I loved Orla's make. I just couldn't stop looking at it. She had some custom printed fabric, which were actually her lips. They were her real lips that she'd obviously drawn around and then made the custom fabric. I just thought it was fantastic. And she put brake cables in the bottom, so they made them like really oversized bell bottoms with a jacket. So she really pushed herself this week, I think, with a trousers and a jacket. And she made the jacket, and on the back she put applique letters saying "zip it," because she said something about it was kind of a bit of a mantra that she said to herself because she worries about talking too much. I think I might need a jacket with "zip it" on the back. I thought it was fantastic. I really loved the way that she just totally went for it. Fabulous. Yasmin's was a dress and coat. Again, I thought the idea was absolutely fantastic. It screamed pop art, that kind of half face silhouette, you know, absolutely fantastic. She did say that she'd made a bit of a mistake and not made the jacket quite long enough, and so she was left without a chin. But I quite liked the fact that there was quite a dramatic edge to it at the bottom. Yeah, I think the one thing that you could have improved Yasmin's was the shift dress that she made underneath was lovely. It was just a very, very simple white shift dress. I think she could have improved it by, I don't know whether you remember, but a few years ago in the Sewing Bee, they made the pop art dresses with the black lines on, and then the colour blocked shift dresses. I think if Yasmin had kind of taken a stroke out of that book and even just put a couple of black lines on her shift dress, like in interesting places, to give it that kind of comic strip feel, I think that would have really elevated it, and it would have made that outfit absolutely phenomenal. But you know, you're not in the room, are you? And I have no idea whether I would have been able to get that done in the time. I thought it was lovely. I thought just missed that little trick. So Gaynor did reverse applique on hers. So reverse applique is the opposite of what Yasmin and Kit did. So Yasmin and Kit cut out the shapes, used a bond to put them on, whereas Gaynor put her fabric underneath and then cut the fabric along the top to make the applique shapes, which I thought was really interesting because I love applique. I love both types, and I found it really interesting that both were in the show. The one thing that I was a little bit disappointed by was that Gaynor chose to fray the edges. And although I think that that's a beautiful technique and it can look really great on reverse applique, I think for the pop art brief, it needed to be sharp lines. So I loved Gaynor's design, and I loved the fact that she put boning in the hem to kind of give it a bit more structure. The one thing that I would say is I wish that she had used kind of more primary colours. A lot of the others kind of really sang out, you know, that bright red of Orla's, that bright blue of Kit's, you know, the pink of Kaz's, whereas I found that Gaynor's was a little bit too muted for the brief. The brief was pop art. It should have really popped. And I think that she would have got much more of that kind of effect if she'd have gone, rather than the mustardy yellow, gone for a bright yellow and, you know, a bright red dot, and, you know, kind of just a bit more, give it a bit more oomph, Gaynor. That's what I was thinking. And then there was Stuart's. Stuart made a beautiful structured dress, and of his own, you know, he he admitted himself that it started being influenced by one particular thing, and kind of that didn't quite work. And so what ended up being an absolutely beautiful dress, and it was a lovely, beautiful kind of colour blocked dress, it gave much more of kind of an impressionist artist film rather than the pop art. And this is the thing, isn't it? It's, you know, you can make a beautiful dress, but if it's not on brief, you're in trouble. So I did love the idea, and the idea behind it, the original idea, was the artist Keith Haring, which had, you know, the colourful drawings that have all of the black outlines. And I think if Stuart had been able to get the black outlines in, it would have hit the brief. Unfortunately, it didn't. Kaz's for me was, I mean, I think it was probably my favourite out of all of them. She made a flat dress. So, you know, when you were a kid, I mean, if you're my kind of age, you might remember this. If you're younger, maybe not. And you had the little booklets with the little dolls that you cut out, and they had little tabs on the dresses, and then you folded the tabs over onto the little... Honestly, it brought me right back last night. I really enjoyed it with my cuppa and my biscuit, and I was thinking, oh, what fun me and Kaz would have had as kids of dressing our little paper dolls. So yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. It was tight on time, and I was a little bit afraid for her at one stage that she wasn't going to have enough time to put the tabs on, and the tabs really made it. Now, it probably wasn't Kaz's best binding, but I'm so glad that she got them on, because it just really finished the look. And Kaz's model, oh, chef's kiss, she did a fantastic job. She sashayed down that runway, and yeah, I've written genius because I just thought it was fantastic, and there was no denying that it kind of gave that pop art feel. So yes, so that was the end of the Made to Measure. So then it was on to the decision making. Who goes home? I think it was always between Gaynor and Stuart, and unfortunately, Stuart, it was your time to go home. So Stuart went home, and Garment of the Week went to Kit, which I think was very well deserved. And yeah, fantastic. And it was nice to see Kit win a Garment of the Week, because they haven't won one yet. They've definitely been won lots and lots of things this season, but the Garment of the Week had eluded them. So it was lovely to see their little face with a little smile. So next week is movie week. I can't wait for movie week. Now, my baby Sparkles, who you will see in just a few seconds, loves the movie, loves the film. So it will be really interesting to see what he thinks. I might even see if we can perhaps try and watch it together next week, and maybe you'll get a bumper me and baby Sparkles all together. And I'm really looking forward to that. So I'm going to leave you in the capable hands of baby Sparkles, and he'll let you know what he thought of Kids Week.
Hi everyone, it's baby Sparkles with my review of last week's Sewing Bee Kids Week. I like the Kids Week because they actually get children models in, and you can see the sewers that don't have kids are like trying to like communicate with them like they're adults, and then you've got the sewers that do have kids or know how to deal with kids that can actually like handle it. I thought Kaz was brilliant with the way she got the kid to do her own design and add that into her made to measure outfit, which was very, very cool. Kaz finished bottom of the first two challenges and then won to the made to measure. And I think it was enough, because I think what it was kind of clear was that even though she did finish bottom in the first two challenges, it was like they were really close. And I kind of like, it's interesting to see how they're sort of judging that, and they're getting a bit more consistent with the way they judge it, which I think is good. But yeah, this week the mums did well. I know Kaz struggled with the first one, but Kaz's Made to Measure was amazing. I think Orla, because Orla still is a child, did well. It's like, what do you want to be? Or like, what did you want to be when you were 9? And for Gaynor, that was 60 years ago, and for Orla, that was 10 years ago. It's like, but I thought Orla's beekeeper outfit was really, really cool. I think that would have been my pick for outfit of the week, and I think it was fair that Dan went. I like that he went super ambitious, but yeah, you got Gaynor. This was Gaynor's week to be full grandma, and she did go full grandma, and I like the fact she was like, yeah, it's really simple, but it's nice, and I like it. She did a good job. But if she doesn't do something crazy next week, she's probably going. And I do think that is fair, because I think right now, out of the 6, 4 of them are, I think, by far the best. Stuart's an absolute legend, you can't get rid of him. And then, I think it's then Gaynor is left out in that. But you never know. She might go full bondage. She's going to go, like, extreme. It's going to be ridiculous. You're never going to see Gaynor like it. Or she's going to make a really nice tea towel. Probably going to make a really nice tea towel. But we'll see. And that's all. You'll see what I think about that next week. So, yeah. Bye-bye.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much for staying to the end. Don't forget to give me a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I have really enjoyed bringing this week to you. Don't forget to sparkle. I'll see you really soon. Bye for now.